So I kind of want to make more videos on the channel, and seeing as most of my stuff is like thoroughly written reviews, and like the anime video I just made, that was also a written video. The only way to really do that is to have more videos like this that are more casual, more freeball videos. And today I have two things I want to talk about, which are the PS4.5 or PS4 codename Neo, and the Nintendo NX console having a release date. First off, we'll start with the PS4.5, which I've seen a lot of people online. I've seen a lot of articles saying, "Oh, this is the fucking end. No one's gonna buy this. This is gonna confuse everyone." For once, I'm actually the world's not ending. I swear, I'm gonna defend Sony on this one, because this is. I'm not gonna call it a shrewd business move. It's more of a necessity. They have to fucking do this, and I think it's for a reason different than what a lot of websites and people are suggesting that it is, but that reason's perfectly valid as well, and that reason being that you've got a lot of games that aren't running at 1080p, that are running at low frame rates. So probably the worst is that they're not even running at 1080p. That's probably the worst thing. And there's this article I have here, I'll link below, something about 1080p being the mandatory minimum resolution, which it's 2016. Of course, it should be the fucking bare minimum resolution. Jesus. But finally, I guess that'll be the case. But I don't think it's going to be a disaster on the consumer end. I really don't think that at all. I don't think it's going to fucking confuse anyone either, because the basis that people are using for this being a confusing product for people is the Wii U, and the Wii U is like, rather than the Wii U being the standard for people being confused by this shit, I think Wii U is like the exception to the rule. I think Wii U is like an anomaly. Nintendo is an anomaly. You can't take them as being standard. I think you put out a PS4 and you call it PS4 Plus or something like that, anything like that, it'll be fine. I mean, Apple puts out fucking iPhone, 4, iPhone 4S, iPhone 5, iPhone 5S is fine, okay? They can do this. It'll be fine. People will get the message. It's not going to be hard to explain at all. I don't think console players or PlayStation players are that fucking stupid that they can't figure that out. They'll be fine, all right? They're adults, most of them. So what this means is that basically it's going to be like a new Nintendo 3DS kind of situation, where the games will run the same on both. Obviously, I don't think there's going to be any games that are like only on this PlayStation 4.5. It's going to be on both, and the games will just run better on PlayStation 4.5. That's just fucking fine with me. That makes logical sense, and it's like I said, it's a fucking necessity at this point. Now, the area where it gets a little dodgy, where it gets a little bad, where it might spell a little bit of trouble for PlayStation and Sony, is with the development side of things. And I've already seen developers complaining about this shit on Twitter. I've seen an article or two, this is going to be a developer nightmare. I wouldn't call it a developer nightmare, but it's going to cause a little bit of trouble, because think about this: when you develop for consoles, the one thing that makes developing for consoles easy is that you only have to worry if you're just worrying about PlayStation. If you're a PlayStation Sony developer, Jesus, can't talk. But if you're a PlayStation developer, you only have to worry about just PlayStation 4. That's all you're developing for. If you're like Bungie and you're doing Destiny, you have to worry about PS4 and Xbox One. That's only two, and they're relatively similar. Now you're adding into the mix this PS4.5, and I'm sure Xbox is going to do an Xbox 1.5, but because they need it more, frankly. But what's going to happen is you're going to have 4 different fucking platforms to develop for. It's going to get a little messy for developers, and while a lot of the games coming out are not well optimized on consoles, they run at sub 1080p resolution, sometimes they run at poor frame rates. Some of that is, of course, to blame on the lack of power on the consoles, but a lot of that goes on to the developer as well, because you look at these fucking games, game development's not in the best place right now, especially for AAA high-end games. It's not in the best place. I mean, look at fucking Ubisoft, look at I guess Star Wars Battlefront was all right, but that's besides the point. There's a lot of games that are, in addition to the consoles not being powerful enough, the developers aren't doing that great of a job at optimizing their game. Things get rushed out. There's errors. There's day one patches. So even if this PS4.5 comes out and the developers are able to use this power, maybe they won't even fucking use it because they're fucking lazy. It's always a possibility. But to summarize this first part, I think this PS4.5 is a necessary move. It's totally fine. People are going to buy it. Am I going to buy it? No, I'm not going to buy it because I play all my multi-platform stuff on PC, which the multi-platform games seem to be what suffer the most in terms of the lack of power on consoles. All I've used my PS4 for is console exclusive, so doesn't necessitate an upgrade, for me at least, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty of PlayStation people. The PlayStation 4 is selling like hotcakes. People are going to be just happy to buy the new one. I'm sure people will buy it if they want it. It's not going to be a consumer disaster. I highly doubt that. Now, let's get to what I really think that the PS4.5 is for. And it's even in the code name, they're calling it PS4 Neo. If you remember, the PSVR was named Morpheus, so they're going with that Matrix character naming scheme. But what I really think the PS4.5 is for is to help with PSVR, which, like I've said, I get a lot of fucking negative comments for it. But like I say, PSVR, I just don't see how that's going to work with the PlayStation 4 that are out right now. It's not powerful enough, in my opinion, to run an adequate VR experience. I just don't fucking see that happening. Now, if this PS4.5 comes out and it's around, I'd say it's like 20% more powerful, 30% more powerful, that is going to pay in dividends for VR, which a lot of these VR games are showing they're very low in the graphical fidelity area because the frame rates have to be higher because you have to worry about motion sickness, things on your face. I mean, I don't even want to get into what I think of VR. Everyone already knows what I think of it, but nonetheless, in terms of, you got this VR headset coming out and you've got a pretty weak console that can barely run, normal shit at 1080p and 60 FPS, so you're going to really need some extra power for your VR headset. I think that this PS4.5 is going to get unveiled at Sony's E3 press conference, and then I think that it'll come out in September, November. It'll come out then. They'll do a bundle with the VR headset in time for the holiday season, for Christmas, for Black Friday, whatever. And that will be they'll hedge their bets on that for VR. Is that going to work out? I don't fucking think so. But I would assume that that's the game plan for them, that's what they have in mind. Because the PS4 right now, I just can't. I know that they have shit running and they show it off at trade shows. I just can't wrap my head around that fucking console running good looking VR games at over 60 frames per second. I just can't wrap my fucking head around that. I can't imagine that being consistent or good experience. Now on to the Nintendo NX, which is just a curious fucking thing because they talk about it freely, even though it was only mentioned in rumors. So odd how they're handling it. But Nintendo officially announcing that they're going to release this thing in March 2017, which is about a year from now. I believe the exact date was March 27th, 2017. And this is just odd because we know basically fucking nothing about this. And then it gets weirder because the Zelda game on Wii U, which has been delayed a million times by now, will also come out in 2017 and launch simultaneously on the Wii U and the NX, which is actually kind of reminiscent of what happened with Zelda Twilight Princess on GameCube and Wii, came out on both. So it's not uncharted territory, it's just a little odd. And is it a sign of what the NX is going to be able to do Wii U stuff? Because this would be a fucking great foundation for the NX if it could already run some of the stuff that's on the Wii U. I'm going to look at my games. You've got fucking shit you've got the Wind Waker HD, and games that are more like platforms, like Smash Brothers 4 or Mario Kart 8. If they can have those kind of games on the NX and then keep updating them in a sort of like what Steam does with Team Fortress 2 or Counter-Strike Global Offensive, just make it more of a platform than an individual title, and then just port these games over to the NX, that'd be fantastic. They've solved their problem of launch titles, is solved, and obviously they already have the Zelda game coming out, and Zelda games seldom are terrible, so they already have that going for them. But I am cautiously more optimistic about Nintendo than I used to be, even though I'm a very staunch critic of Nintendo, because especially lately with that, they had that Miitomo app, right, which is kind of the antithesis of anything I'd be interested in. But so it just blows my mind that Nintendo would be the ones to kind of capture this sort of the essence of what people like in social media and what they like in their social media apps. It's such a bizarre, goofy app, but it just came out and it's all over Twitter. I mean, everyone was fucking on that shit immediately. Just shocking. Now you look at it now and it's kind of dwindled. There's not as many people on it, but that first few days, like that first week, it was like fucking everyone was on that shit. And I think that that's like a decent. I think Nintendo has actually found a decent outlet with this app thing to make these small little quirky things. Because Miitomo was I would say Miitomo was sort of like Tomodachi Life in a way. It's pretty much identical to like Tomodachi Life. But you look at these weird little games like Tomodachi Life, also like the WarioWare DIY games, stuff like that. These little quirky games, just keep pumping those out onto the App Store as these tiny little. Sometimes you can maybe charge 99 cents for, maybe free to play with microtrans, whatever you need to do, just keep pumping them out, and there'll be these little things that kind of catch on fire. They're really popular for a week or two, and that's all they need to be. They don't need to have massive staying power. They don't need to be people's everyday fucking apps. It's just like, oh, Nintendo has a new thing today. I think that's a decent model for Nintendo to do with this app thing. And speaking of their apps, they've got 2 more games that are going to be making their way to mobile devices. Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing, both fucking perfect titles to have on a mobile device. And it's probably about time for Nintendo to start thinking about making a handheld that doesn't have the resolution of a potato to replace the Nintendo 3DS and new 3DS, which, as much as I like to make fun of the hardware on those things, I'm going through the games. I've been playing a lot of games lately on my 3DS, like catching up on old stuff, and you look at the library of games on there, the catalog of games, it's actually like really good. I wasn't even paying attention to that console for most of the time, but yeah, Bravely Default, the Fire Emblem games are on there. The Zelda Link Between Worlds, that game was phenomenally good. There's tons of great fucking games on the new 3DS, and some of them might actually be able to be brought over to iPhone and not suck. So my question really is, what's the avenue that Nintendo plans on taking here? Are they just going to, because they've said, well, they've admitted, okay, well, our handheld sales aren't what they used to be because people are playing games on their phones now. So what's the solution to that? Is to make games on phones. But does that mean completely abandoning handheld and just going to phone? Who knows? But there certainly are many games that are input-wise basic enough to be put onto an iPhone and not be of detriment to the game. Stuff like, I don't know, like Pokemon. Like how basic of a fucking game is that? You could put those on the iPhone and it would make no difference whatsoever versus playing with buttons, because that's really the thing that makes me hate mobile games, is I don't like not having buttons. But there are certain types of games that don't necessitate buttons, or where it's not of massive detriment to the game, like Pokemon, like turn-based stuff that's slow-paced, that only requires, tapping this, tap that. It's not that complicated. But this NX, I think that 2017, back to NX anyway, I think 2017 is a decent date for them to be launching the thing, because that will give Wii U a 5-year lifespan, which is, it might seem, a lot of people are saying, wow, it's already over, they're just cutting the plug. But that's actually right in line with like the lifespan of like the Wii and the GameCube, and I believe that's actually a pretty normal lifespan for a console, because I think people have a distorted perception of how long consoles are supposed to last because of the PS3 and Xbox 360's lifespan. I mean, consoles are not supposed to last that long. That's not fucking normal. And I think we're seeing that here with PS4.5 and with this new Nintendo NX. I think there's a generation of people right now, younger people maybe, or maybe even people who didn't get into gaming until the Xbox 360, or people who that's really the only perspective they have because they kind of live in the moment, they forget about the past, that this isn't abnormal for consoles to have shorter lifespans like this, because it's really not a shorter lifespan. That's like a normal fucking lifespan. So Nintendo NX, I'm cautiously optimistic about it, and presumably under the direction of this new CEO, Nintendo has shown that they're willing to do things a little bit differently, that they're willing to change. And if NX is like a straight up business, no silly shit console without gimmicks, without a stupid gamepad, without a UI that's infuriating for anyone to use. I mean, like the Wii, what the fuck is that UI, man? Like, you sync your controller and you have to get the gamepad out and like match pictures with the screen. It's like mind-boggling. Who the fuck said, yeah, that's what we need, fam. That's what we gotta fucking do. Whose idea was that? Whose decision was that? Hopefully that person's gone. But let me know down below what you're gonna do in terms of these two new consoles. Nintendo with their brand new console and Sony with their 0.5 console. For me, like I said, PS4.5, definitely not going to be getting that. NX, I'll probably be getting NX, but maybe a little later, because it seems that they want to, it's a gesture of goodwill to put Zelda on both. They might ease into NX a little bit, just make it, keep putting games out on Wii U, I mean, to ease into NX. To make people like me not as pissed off at them, but I'm not really pissed off. It's, what did you expect? We use it as a dying platform with not much hope on it. But yeah, let me know down below, like I said, what consoles, which of these two are you going to pick up? Either of them? Are you going to pick up none of them? What do you think of Nintendo's new direction here? I think it's pretty decent, but of course, that all remains to be seen. But as always, thank you for watching my video, and I hope to be putting out more stuff like this, more casual stuff, to have more videos on the channel in between my more methodical, written out stuff. So thanks.